So I've just spent 9 months in prison. I got a 3-year prison sentence for peaceful protesting with Just Stop Oil. And so yeah, I spent 9 months in prison and then 6 months on tag, and I've just got the tag off. So this is my first trip to London. Was a free man without a tag, got to get back for a certain time. And now I'm focused on, although I've been focused on climate campaigning since 1993 really, full time focused on that.
Wow.
Now I'm focused on what we're talking about is like running community assemblies, asking people what matters most to them, what they most like about their area, what they want to see changed, bringing people together in these community assemblies. It's really amazing because the bigger picture is we need to change the political system. Political system's not capable of dealing with all of the problems we face, whether that be the climate breakdown or the rise of the far right, cost of living crisis. I mean, this massive difference between the billionaires, the rich and the poor, you know, that's got massively bigger over the last few years. So what I've seen with the climate, because that's the thing I've focused on for so long, as one example, it could be whatever issue we care about, whether it's food or equality or whatever, that whatever that issue is, we're going to fail to get the changes needed until we change the system, the political system, because the current political system is so corrupt, it's so
Top to bottom, man.
yeah, it's been like bought out by the elite basically,
Oh,
by
yeah.
the corporations and the top people running the corporations and the lobbyists. So all the politicians pretty much are selfish and in the pocket of the lobbyists. So all of the policy we get is driven by lobbyists and what serves the vested interests of the elite, rather than what is actually in the public interest. And democracy means rule by the people. It's a Greek word. You know, for 2,500 years we've known, and the Greeks said it very clearly. For democracy, you need sortition. When you have elections only, you will have oligarchy. And what I mean by that is, oligarchy is ruled by a few. So when you just have elections, you will have rule by a few, and that's exactly what we've got. But sortition is how we select a jury. It's how we basically how we select citizens' assemblies so that it's truly representative. So sortition is a random selection process so that it selects for key demographic factors. So if you've got 51% women in a population of 49% men, in your citizens' assembly selected by sortition, you'll have the same representation: 51% women, 49% men. And so it goes on for all the key demographic factors like education, class, geographical location, you know, all of those kind of key demographic factors. So what you get then with the Citizens' Assembly is a really representative group that have got all of this lived experience of all of these different jobs. You've got cleaners and carpenters and builders and, you know, ordinary people in this Citizens' Assembly, and they get all the information. So experts on tap, not experts on top, and make a deliberative process, make decisions by a deliberative process. So it's deliberative democracy, and that's really vital. So it's direct democracy because ordinary people are there making decisions, but it's also deliberative. So it's not like, for example, the Brexit referendum, where we were lied to quite blatantly by both sides and making decisions without all the information. You know, whereas with the citizens' assemblies, you get this true information. And we've had 600 of these citizens' assemblies around the world, and they really work. National level citizens' assemblies, and we've had breakthrough legislation in a dozen countries, like Ireland and Finland and other countries. So Ireland, for example, knew they needed to bring the country up to date with laws around blasphemy, where it was still technically a death sentence for blaspheming in a Catholic country, and they knew that was wrong, but no one would touch that because politically they didn't want to risk their careers. So they gave it to a Citizens' Assembly. Citizens' Assembly looked into it and said, yes, of course, you know, we recommend this change, put that to a referendum, and the people went with the Citizens' Assembly. Because time and time again, with these 600 Citizens' Assemblies that we've had around the world, when ordinary people see other ordinary people in a Citizens' Assembly making these decisions and coming up with these recommendations, they trust them. We don't trust politicians, quite rightly, but we do trust ordinary people in a Citizens' Assembly. So these 600 Citizens' Assemblies show that it works, but the problem so far is they've all been one-off, ad hoc and advisory only. So, for example, all of the, I mentioned this dozen where you've got this breakthrough legislation, dozen countries, but that's just because of luck, really, that the recommendations of the Citizens' Assembly, it suited the powers that be on some level to go with it and to allow it. Whereas when it didn't suit them, they just ignore it. And so all of the climate assemblies, and we've had lots of them now at different levels of government, from national government to local government, but they've all largely been ignored because they've been advisory only. And so what we need is a permanent standing Citizens' Assembly with teeth. And we have that now in Paris, and we have that now in East Belgium. And what we need is that in the UK. So we've started to form that. It's called the House of the People. And we had our first sitting in July 2025. And we've got the next sitting coming up at some point in the future.
Where is that then?
So it's sat in London. So it's not got a permanent base yet. And it's very much a crowd-funded initiative. But where it is on the website. It's houseofthepeople.uk. So if you just look up houseofthepeople.uk, you'll find the House of the People, and they've just released, as of at the very end of December 2025, they released the first People's Charter, which came out at the first sitting of the People's Assembly. So that's something, House of the People, sorry. So that's something that we want to help promote, and please share it and spread the word around this House of the People. But in the meantime, what we're doing is organising locally. And so locally across the country now we're starting these community assemblies in different communities. Having a series every week or every 2 weeks, having another community assembly to bring more people together to say, okay, what matters to you? Okay, what are we going to do about it? And it's really a people-led movement. And in Brixton they had 8 of these over 2 months, 8 assemblies every week, and built up so much momentum. They identified housing and homelessness, addiction, and drugs as the kind of problem, the main problem that needs addressing. And that's common. I think in Totnes we've run 4 assemblies, again back to back, and found housing as the top issue. But in Brixton, because they're further ahead, they've already now started running additional people's assemblies to identify independent candidates coming from the community. And in the May elections, the local elections in May, they're going to stand candidates in every ward in Lambeth, and hopefully sweep the board and get control of the council basically for independent people-led candidates. It's been a Labour stronghold since 1920, over 100 years. And hopefully through this process of getting hundreds of people on board, knocking on doors, speaking to people, saying what matters to you, this is a community project, community-led initiative, we've got these community candidates that we're going to choose as a community, will you support them? Hopefully that will show a model which we can then roll out around the country.
Sounds interesting, man.
And the main organising platform for that is Assemble. So if you check out timetoassemble.org, you'll find out about that. Really encourage people to check out the Assemble website, get involved, give us your contact details. I'm really happy to travel now that I can, now that I'm off tag, travel around the country and talk about this, help start local groups, give a talk. There's a team of us that will come and do that and help give talks, help set up local groups and help people get people on the go. We're also getting some funding in so that your initial booking of the community hall and your leaflets initially, we can help you cover the costs of that so that people don't have to be out of pocket, and that we're going to create a sustainable model where people come to these assemblies and then they see the benefit, everyone chips in, pays what they can afford every month, so that going forward then they become sustainable and self-funding.
How long did it take you to sort that out?
So it's really the result of the last 7 or 8 years of trying different things out, but in particular intensively the last couple of years. And we're still prototyping it. So this Totnes and Brixton, those are 2 of 6 prototypes that we're currently running. We've got another few starting this year in Oxford and Oxford, Norwich, Swindon, is it Wanstead? Leytonstone? No, not Leytonstone. Anyway, there's another area in London that we're also doing it. But we were open to doing it anywhere. So if anyone here is interested, literally get a couple of mates or a couple of people that are also keen, get a couple of people together so you're not on your own, invite us over, we'll give a talk, we'll get things going. Really keen to get it going. Because it needs to happen everywhere, right?
Of course. Oh my God, that's good.
Yeah, so that's the first I've told you all about that, so it's a good way
And-
of updating you, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's great, man. I'm gonna put this up today.
Fantastic.
Yeah, man. So, what was prison like?
Prison was many different things. Prison shouldn't exist. You know, it's interesting. The main prison I was in for 8 months was Foss Way, which was a new prison, the newest prison in the country when I went there. And they had a library of 10,000 books, which is
Wow.
amazing. You know, and in there I found 2 books on abolition, and I'd never really read anything about abolition, but it totally persuaded me that we shouldn't have prisons. There's so many better ways of doing it. Restorative justice is what we should be about, not punitive justice. We've got this medieval idea: you do something wrong, we're going to punish you. It's like, actually, you do something wrong, we need to help you make sure you don't do that again. Because everyone wants to be of benefit. No one gets up in the morning going, right, how much suffering and pain can I cause today? No one does that. They go, right, I want to make the best of the day. And then people end up sometimes making really bad decisions. And we've got a system that, rewards the worst kind of traits that humanity is capable of. So humanity is capable of everything, right? Compassion and kindness, generosity, creativity. It's also capable of greed and selfishness and callousness and cruelty, And so we have created a system which allows people that are really into those latter traits to rise to the top. People like Trump, the CEOs. There's great research out now showing that amongst CEOs of people running companies, there's a disproportionate number of narcissists and sociopaths, and even potentially psychopaths amongst that group. Because those are the people that are willing to step on other people, and put themselves forward. And so we reward that behaviour. And that's really crazy, isn't it?
I know it is. I've seen.
So just to finish your question, so prison shouldn't exist. We should be doing restorative justice. But instead, what we do, so we reward the people with the worst traits, and we punish the people that most need support. So in prison, you've mostly got people that are poor, come from childhood abuse backgrounds, and all got mental health problems, right? So those are the bulk of people in prison. And everyone doesn't think of that. They think of prison as like the extreme case of rapists or paedophiles or murderers. Well, it's like that's a tiny majority. Most people are in prison for being poor. There were people in prison who literally prison was their only way of getting regular meals and regular housing.
So a lot of them can't cope without the.
Yeah. And the other thing is, as soon as you get in there, you start getting institutionalised.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Myself, I've missed prison since coming and getting released, just because you just end up, in order to survive and thrive in that environment, you have to then adjust to it, and then there's certain parts of it you miss. Like the sort of lack of pressure because everything's done for you. The fact that you've got this routine and structure and loads of time to yourself, loads of time to meditate, think, read, So a prison like life is what you make of it, It shouldn't exist. It's dangerous in many ways because, the people in there are so, volatile and unsupported and abused or whatever. But overall, I found generally as a rule of thumb, the first 2 or 3 weeks in a prison is a bit tough. Adjusting to it and working out, who not to look at in the wrong way, or what not to do and what to do. But then after that, it gets easier and easier. And so actually, my last 8 months in Foss Way got, 7 months. Sorry, the last 7 months there got easier and easier. So actually, I was living a really good life by the end of it. Now that was me with the privilege of education and loads of support behind me, and I have this amazing practice that I do. So I've got all of that support. But it's not to say it's easy for everyone. And some people, absolutely, it's a fatal thing. 13 people died while I was in Foss Way.
13.
Yeah.
Wow. I met what's his name? He did a musical about himself. Oh God. He used to always wear no shoes.
Oh, Marcus.
Marcus.
Yeah.
We went to see him. He put on a show at Walthamstow.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. But a lot of people didn't like it. Some people did like it. Anyway, he wouldn't give us an interview.
Ah, why not?
I don't know. I don't really know why.
Uh-huh. Oh, well, he was probably on conditions, because he's still got his case coming up. He's not done and dusted yet.
He's not.
He is the single most oppressed by the state protester that I know of in this country. He has suffered more than anyone else. I mean, he got a shorter prison sentence than me, but spent way longer in prison, and he's been on tag way longer than me.
He's still on tag,
he's
is he?
only just got his tag off.
Oh, right.
But he's still got the pressure over him of this appeal, or this, I think it's an appeal, to try and, be able to stay living with his family.
Yes.
In Britain,
Because I went there, and I spoke to him, and I asked him about you, and he said you were still in prison.
Yeah.
And that was a bit of a, I didn't realise that you got, you had to spend, how long were you in there?
So I was in there for 9 months. I
months.
got 3 years.
3 years.
Which is the second level longest sentence for peaceful protests so far. There's going to be more, I'm sure, but they're going down this route of repression. I mean, in terms of that, the worst thing that they keep sort of trying to outdo each other how bad they can get in terms of moving away from democracy and moving towards autocracy, and they're just now like totally messing up the jury system. Like, the jury has been with us for 800 years.
Lemmy is trying to get rid of.
Yeah, and basically what they're doing is getting rid of the jury for the vast majority of cases, saying juries will only sit if it's 5 years sentence or more.
Rape and murder.
Yeah, like the vast majority of them wouldn't have a jury, which is just totally wrong. I mean, it's fascinating actually, genuinely, because of what I've just been saying about my belief in sortition. I had 2 jury trials, and when we set up Extinction Rebellion, I saw the jury trial as a mini form of a citizens' assembly, because you get, you do something like, block a road, and of course people are upset by that, and you've only done it to highlight the climate emergency, and it works. That's what throughout history has got us the right to the weekend and the right to vote for men and then women. All of these rights that no one wants to cause disruption. No one wants to be disrupted, but unfortunately, it's one of the few tools we ordinary people without power and lobbyists have. And that's why it's done around the world to this day, and it's why it's done throughout history. At the moment, was it in Italy? Someone was just telling. Yeah, in Italy, they've got a phrase which means block everything. So they've been doing these blockades of everything in Italy. And they have that phrase because it works. You block things, you get people's attention.
They do.
So anyway, but the idea was, we'd block roads, say, or do some disruption to get attention and try and get our demands forwarded, and then you'd eventually, but we'd hold ourselves accountable. We'd never run away. We're completely non-violent, and so we'd say to it. Then we'd have a chance to put our case to a jury and say to a jury, look, this is why we did it. Do you think that makes sense? Of course we don't want to disrupt people, but do you understand why we did it? And so many juries acquit people in that situation. You've got amazing cases where women have broken into military bases and dismantled jets, fighter jets or whatever, and then been found not guilty by a jury, because it's like, yes, those jets were going to be sold to a dictatorship and used to bomb innocent people. There was a brilliant case of that in the 90s with the Hawk fighter jet that stopped bombing East Timor and Swords into Plowshares action. But because the government is moving down this repression, it's in the pay of the fossil fuel industry and the big business, they've basically they're not happy with juries acquitting people, and so they're taking them off. But just my example, I had 2 jury trials. Both juries found me guilty. Now, partly that was because the juries we weren't allowed to talk about climate change. We weren't allowed to talk about why we did the action. So it's a kind of absolutely not a level playing field.
No, it wasn't.
But despite that, I did take it seriously. I was like, okay, twice now I've been in front of a jury and they found me guilty. So actually, I need to rethink what I'm doing. You know, if I can't persuade, even though they've skewed the game, like, and not said I can talk about these things, that if I can't persuade a jury to support what I did, maybe I don't have support for what I did, maybe I shouldn't do what I did. So it genuinely changed, and my focus has been on citizens' assemblies, partly because of that process. However, if they take the jury away, I wouldn't have had that personal process, and so I'd have been much more likely to carry on causing disruption, because I wouldn't have had that thing of like, I'm faced with a jury of my peers, they've said no, so I take that seriously. Whereas if it's just a corrupt judge that I got no real respect for,
exactly.
and because I don't trust him, he's corrupted, he's from the elite, I've got no connection to him, doesn't know what it's like to, you know, to go overdrawn and all the rest of it. The rest of us suffer all the time. So yeah, thanks for checking the time. What time is it?
It's 10 o'clock.
Okay, I've got to go.
All right. Larch, it's been a pleasure. It's been great to see you again and make it a bit more often. Huh?
Definitely. Yeah. Thanks so much, John.